everyone. Happy Tuesday. I don't even know what date it is. I was just going to say the date and then I was like, oh, I don't know what day it is. I think it's the 19th of May, I do believe. Anyways, we are into, oh, lipstick on my teeth. Gotta love that on a live. We are into day, I believe 60 something, like maybe 60, 61, 62 of this global pandemic and being home. So it's just a little bit crazy there in terms of how long this has been going on. I'm sure none of us expected this to be going on for so long. But you know, the end is, at least the new beginning is coming now. We can see it's been forecasted. We're doing really well in Newfoundland here. If you're not from Newfoundland, let me know where you're from. Tell me in the comments there, let me know. And yeah, here in Newfoundland, we're doing really, really well. We're on like day 20 with no cases. And right now, it's so beautiful out. So if I don't have a lot of you Newfoundlanders on here right now at this moment, this evening, I totally understand because it turned out to be a gorgeous evening out there. I think it's warmer than it was all day. So why we're here today is, I mentioned yesterday, and if you weren't on there, what I am doing. Hey, Sarah. What I have put together is a 5-day program that is basically about mental wellness, mental fitness, and helping to give strategies for what's happening in your life right now and going back to work. And hopefully, you know, it's something that if you do put them into place, that there'll be strategies for life, because they have been for me. So yesterday was all about embracing change. So we talked about growth mindset. We talked about what it means to have a growth mindset, what it means to have a fixed mindset, and what the advantages of having a growth mindset is and how it helps you with resiliency. I also gave 4 or 5 strategies that really, really help me to build resiliency so that I'm managing super well during this global pandemic. I'm very, very proud of myself. And I would love for each and every one of you to be able to say that too. Some of you may already be there. And if you are, congratulations. Some of you, if you're not, that's okay. It's okay. It's not a time in life to be actually causing yourself pain because of the fact that you're suffering from shame or any additional pain. We'll talk about that later, but any additional pain you may be having because you're not feeling good right now. Don't worry about it. We'll talk about it completely normal. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I got some of my favorite people on here, so I really appreciate it. So that was yesterday. Again, yesterday was all about embracing change. Today is about managing expectations. So I want to disclose something to you guys. It's private, right? Because it's Facebook Live. No, but in all seriousness, anybody who knows me and anybody who's known me for a long time, and I mentioned a little bit about this yesterday, but I said yesterday, and I'll continue to say it, I don't know how I would have handled this if I were the 20-year-old me. Like, I have no idea what state I would be in, because I grew up as a very, very emotional child, and I would get very overwhelmed if things didn't go my way. Hi, Darlene. And that was a huge thing for me. And it really, I know that my poor mother, if she jumps on here, she was probably afraid for my mental well-being because I would get so upset over things. And that stayed with me right up until my 20s for sure. And, you know, I'm not saying that I don't get emotional anymore. However, it's just not as high or low, and it's not as long lasting, which I'm very, very proud to say. So I'm really, really happy that I am not in the same place I was in my 20s. If you are with me when it comes there, or if you're glad you're in the spot that you're in right now, let me know in the comments below. If you hear me when I say I'm an emotional creature, if you are as well, please let me know that I'm not alone in that. The thing is that emotions are a great, great thing. And I mentioned a little bit about this yesterday. They are, you know, emotions are meant to tell us something. How we're feeling is meant to tell us something. The only time when emotions get in our way is when we can't be productive or maybe they last longer than they should, or it stops us with connecting to the world around us or connecting to those we love. That's when emotions can be a challenge. When we're maybe too high or too low than what the circumstances actually call for. So right now, it's quite normal for anybody to be experiencing emotion. That is typical. It's normal. It's warranted. This is definitely a high emotional time on the planet. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But there are a couple ways that when it comes to life, there are a couple ways that we can have emotional pain. And one is when we are out of alignment with our values. Melissa, I hear you. Yeah, I don't have any children, but I imagine if I did, I would definitely have emotional children. I'm sure you're not the only one. But yeah, if I'm out of alignment with my values, then that's when I tend to be derailed. Another one is that if I'm feeling stuck or I'm not progressing, again, I feel a little emotionally derailed then too. But the biggest one is when my expectations that I have for something don't match reality, which when we think about it, 2020, such a freaking big year. I mean, it's a beautiful round number. 2020, I don't know if you're like me, give me a thumbs up if you expected 2020 to be the year. This is the year you're going to get shit done. This is the year where things were going to happen. Yeah, things happened, just not at all how we expected. 2020 slammed into us. And if any of you expected this, and please let me you can get my lottery ticket next time, because this was something that came out of left field. So again, expectations, when expectations and reality don't meet, that's often when we feel emotional or when we feel out of alignment. So when we've all heard the saying, life is a test. Well, if life is a test and this is a test, then how many of you are like me and you have felt test anxiety right now? If you have, give me a thumbs up if you felt even a little bit, or if you know somebody who's felt test anxiety. Because right now, it feels like the whole world, we are all as one, and there are so many emotions surrounding us everywhere you go, whether it's in the grocery store or whether it's turning on the TV, turning on social media, whatever you do, it is just around the corner that talk about, and I'll say it, COVID-19 and the global pandemic. So we're in a time where this is our time in our generation where we are going to be tested. Like I said, life is a test. This is our test, and we are all dealing with it in different ways. So what I would like to do for anybody who's tuning in or anybody who is on the replay, if you're watching this on the replay, then I would love for you to just comment replay in the comments so that I know. And if you want to share this with anybody right now, go ahead. I know there's a button down here. It has a little person with an arrow, so you can share this. Hi, Jennifer. So you can share this with people to let them know that we're having a conversation tonight. And again, the conversation is about expectations and managing them right now and going into future, going back to work, or going into our new reality. So I'm going to give you the kind of like the why our brains do and why our emotions do what they do. And then I'm going to give you some strategies that really, really work for me that I've gathered together. Anybody who knows me, you know that I'm like a hoarder of information, and I love to try new things. That's one thing that I've always been into. I like to life hack things. So these are all things that I've done, and while I've been on this, I guess well, it's not a vacation, but the lockdown, I've managed to get my life coaching certificate. So I'm super excited for that. Hey, Barb. So I want to share with you techniques and strategies that are actually going to work for you moving forward. When we think about right now and our global community and what's going on, it's really, really easy to get dragged down or dragged into the kind of fear mentality. It's really, really easy to get pulled into thinking about what life should be like. And that's just not our reality right now. So we have a what life should be like. There's this side of it, like really right now, what should we be doing? What would we have been doing? What was our old normal? And, you know, everybody talks about our new normal. And there are some of us who are really, really, truly resisting the new normal. If you feel like you've at times resisted the new normal, because I know I have, please give me a little heart in the comments or a little high five. It's definitely a very, very human thing to resist any change that's been put on us. And again, that was change, and resisting change was talked about yesterday. You can find that in the lives on my my page. But you know, there are two types of pain that happen to us as human beings. There is inevitable pain, and inevitable pain is the pain that happens just through life. And we talked about this yesterday, but through life we have ups and downs, and that is what it means to be human. It's what it means to be living a beautiful, wonderful life, is honestly to have all of the human experiences. And that includes the joys that we go through, you know, with our families and family vacations and graduating from high school, our first kiss. For some of us, it's getting married. For some of us, it's our careers. For some of us, it's children, all those beautiful moments. And then also to experience loss. You know, that's an unfortunate part, but it helps us to grow as human beings, and it helps us, it's part of the human experience. And we all know what it's like to be ill, some of us more than others. And again, that is part of the human experience. But if you've never had illness, you never appreciate health. You never appreciate it. So that's the inevitable type of pain that happens, the ups and downs of life. But then there's additional pain. So this is the important one that I really, really want to hit home. The additional pain is the pain that happens when we add psychological stress to what's going on in our lives. So right now, what additional pain would be, an example would be maybe you are feeling anxiety, and then you pick up your phone or you pick up your tablet and you go search on social media, and you're looking for, or you see all the things that are going on in the world right now. Maybe you're seeing Trump's last freaking speech, or something that just really brings you down mentally. So that's an additional pain that happens because of something that you are doing. So, you know, maybe you're not intentionally looking for that additional pain, but you can avoid it. Another way, and this is a huge one for additional pain, is if you are suffering from maybe anxiety right now, it's having the shame of having the anxiety. So I don't know if you've ever been there. I know I have, especially since, and I'll be completely candid with anybody on here, I have always known that one part of my one huge passion for me, and one part of my life, was always going to be motivational speaking. It's something that from the first time I ever saw a motivational speaker, I knew right away that's what I want to do. I love facilitation, I love sharing, and I love helping to inspire and motivate people. So the thing is that with that, I also had I suffer, or I want to say I suffer from, but I don't really suffer from it, but I am diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And so I had a lot of shame with that, because here I am, I feel like if you are going to be a motivational speaker and inspiring others, how in the world am I supposed to do that when I suffer from anxiety like I do? So I carried that around with me for a very long time. And it really is only recently that I've broken free from the shackles of that additional pain that I'm causing myself. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Steph. So, and you know, especially Steph, like you know yourself when it comes down to you've been there with me through the whole struggle of how am I still going to be empowering to other women when I'm suffering from anxiety? And so there's a couple things that I've done for that. You know, I sought help, like you should. And on top of that, I also have done so much work. I have so many strategies built up now to help me. Doesn't mean that I don't ever experience anxiety. That would be bullshit for me to say. I suffer anxiety. It's just the level of anxiety and how deep I go into it is so much different now. And that's what I want to share with you all. So those are the two types of pain: inevitable pain that happens, and then additional pain that we cause ourselves. If you've ever caused yourself additional pain, please comment below and let me know. So if you've ever had any of those moments of shame or rumination over things that, you know, if you had had a strategy, you might not have to have that additional pain. In ACT therapy, acceptance commitment therapy, which I talked about yesterday, the Happiness Trap by Russ Harris, they talk about in that book how it's called the struggle switch. You know, it's like, oh, I'm having pain now. Okay, well, I don't need to have pain. Oh, I shouldn't have pain right now. So you hit that struggle switch, it turns on. So now you've got two types of pain. Melissa Ralph says, oh yes. Hey, Christina. Chrissy. Loves ya. Thanks, Barrett. God, yes. So we've all been there. Thank you for letting me know I'm not alone there. But the thing is that when we come down to how that affects us moving forward, we have an expectation. And then because of the expectation, like 2020 was supposed to be I know for me, 2020 was supposed to be my killer freaking year. It was supposed to be the year that I earned my life coaching certificate and that I had a dual career, hairstyling, which I love, and life coaching, which I love. And at first, when this all went down, I thought, well, how the hell am I going to do this now? I can't even see anybody. Well, guess what? Here I am on Instagram or on Facebook Live chatting with you all. You know, I've had so many people message me and say that I've helped them, give them a new perspective. And I'm so grateful for that. And so, you know, it's one of those things where I started to have pain because of the fact that I thought that my year was going to be crap. And now I'm so excited because I saw an opportunity in it. And this is available for any of us. The thing is that when you are on a journey and you think about, I've got a little story for you, not at all alone. Thank you, Barb. I got a little story for you if we could picture this. So there are two ways that we can get through life. And we got kids driving in a car and two siblings, two little boys, and they're on the way to Disneyland. They're driving. I know we're from Newfoundland, so this is a big stretch, but please stay with me. So they're driving to Disneyland, and kid number one is that kid in the car, and he is like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And he is just super tense, just cannot wait to get to Disneyland, not seeing anything else. He is just, are we there yet? Are you there yet? Are we there yet? And then you got kid number two. Kid number two, super excited about Disney World, just as excited. But kid number two is looking out the window. He is seeing all of the new scenery go by, sees a couple of animals that he'd never seen before. I don't know, maybe like a lizard or something. And he is just enjoying the ride, watching all the cars go by. They get struck with this huge sun shower. So it makes them have to pull over for a minute. You can guess what happens here. Kid number one is super annoyed. He's like, oh my, I can't believe we got to pull over and stop for this rain shower. Kid number two is like, look at, oh my God, this is so cool. Sure, we can't even drive. I can't even see. He's just watching all the rain on the window. And so that's two perspectives there. And then on the way, the next thing that happens, they get moving again and they pop a tire. Like, boo. And they don't have a spare. So now the trip is off. They cannot go to Disney World today. Doesn't mean they can't go ever. Please don't feel bad for the kids. But kid number one is, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Is super devastated. He in no way did he enjoy the journey. And he was nothing but a bag of like, I guess, anxiety and anticipation that he couldn't even enjoy what was going around him at the time. Kid number two, still disappointed. However, kid number two enjoyed the journey and so had got so much out of the ride. Please, in the comments below, we are both kid number one and kid number two. None of us are just one or the other. But when it comes down to it, there is one or the other that we relate to more when it comes to our lives. So write in the comments below, which kid are you? So are you kid number one who is like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Always just striving for what's coming next and not really taking the time to, as we say, smell the roses? Or are you kid number two who is, yeah, you're excited to get there, but you also are enjoying the journey as you go? If I'm going to be real with you, I spent the majority of my life as kid number one. I was never content. Never content. And it's sad to say, and I can't believe it now that that was my mindset, but it just was. I was always striving for the next thing. I'm very much a goal setter. I'm very much reaching for the stars, but never enjoying any of the moments in between. It was always about the next one. And I mentioned yesterday, and if you were on there, thank you. Kid number 2, yay! We got a couple kid number 2s there. Okay, that's good. I love the fact that you were kid number 2. I'm a kid number 2 now, more so than I was. So I'm very proud of that. But yeah, I was never content. And I said yesterday, if you can remember, if you were on there, thank you, Chrissy, kid number 1. Yeah, I mean, their kid number 1 pops up. If you remember from yesterday, can write in the comments below, how long is it after you've achieved something generally that you feel happy from that achievement? I said it yesterday. And it is actually 1 day to 1 week. That's how long it is that you usually stay happy after you've had an achievement, even if it's an achievement that you really that you've been wanting for a very long time. On average, 1 week is when you'll keep feeling that feeling of awesomeness from achieving it. Yeah, Paula, day to a week. You are so right. Hey, Vanessa. And Erica or Emma says, I was always a 1, but since having kids, I'm a 2. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, kids would definitely put life into perspective. I'm sure I don't have any, but I have nephews. And every time I see them, I absolutely love seeing life through their eyes. So that's a really good one. Thank you for sharing that. So, you know, it's just keeping in mind, which kid do you want to be? And I have no doubt that every one of you would rather be kid number 2, because kid number 2 gets so much more out of life. The difference between kid number 1 and kid number 2 is, of course, living in the moment and enjoying the moment, but it's also emotional flexibility. And emotional flexibility, we talked about yesterday, is all about growth mindset. I'm not going to go back through growth mindset today, but it is available there on the video from yesterday in, I can't remember what I called that video, but anyways, it was posted yesterday. And we went over what was growth mindset. So you want to have, it's really a great thing to have emotional flexibility and be able to bounce back easier. So I'm going to give you some strategies for that in just a moment. But I do want to say one thing that I never mentioned yesterday, and I want to mention today, is that I am not a therapist. I know that those who know me, you know this. And I love to talk about mindset and mental health. And I am definitely a mental health advocate 100%, because like I mentioned to you before, I do have, I guess, a diagnosed mental illness in generalized anxiety disorder. But I love the fact that, the shame of all that is dissipating in the world. And I want to be that. I want to help with that. But because I'm not a therapist, and because I am talking about some touchy subjects and maybe might be hitting on, especially tomorrow and the next day, with the topics we're talking about, which is going to be about our energy and going to be about emotional triggering, it's going to be really, really important that if I strike a chord with anybody, that you seek help from the right place. And that may not be me. We have many places, like we have, Please Help Me Here. The Warm Line is an amazing resource for if you have mental health maybe concerns, or you just need to talk to somebody about it. And you can find all of the information about what's available in Newfoundland on Canadian Mental Health Association of Newfoundland and Labrador on Facebook or Instagram. But Canadian Mental Health Association in general, on their website, you will find so much information. So I just want to say that. And how you know if you need, yes, thank you, Melissa, Thrive channel. Love it. Thank you. If you're having like long-lasting sadness and irritability, when we say long-lasting, it's very normal to have sadness and irritability right now. But we're talking about like if this goes on for a couple weeks, you want to seek advice. Extreme high and low moods, excessive fear, worry or anxiety, social withdrawal, and dramatic changes in eating or sleeping. And I just want to put that out there in case any of you recognize those in yourself or in somebody around you. One thing I do know is that there are places that you can get help, and all of us, if we need it, should go there. Should not feel ashamed to get help. And there are people who truly, truly love you and want to help. So when we get down to the strategies and like how do you become emotionally flexible and how do you manage your expectations and how do you not let your expectations and then if your reality doesn't meet it, how do you not have your emotions get out of whack when that happens? And these are really great things. Like if you have children, I know a lot of you on here have children. These are great to teach them, great strategies that they could have. I wish I had them as a child. The first one is simply to breathe. Breath is so valuable. 20% of our brain needs 20% of all of the oxygen that comes with every breath. So right away, 20% of it is needed in our brains. And that 20% is needed for like concentration. It's needed if you don't have it, like if you're taking shallow breaths, you have forgetfulness, mood swings, you can't concentrate, you're restless, you have a lot of negative thoughts or thoughts that aren't serving you, lack of energy, and the biggest one that is not going to serve you right now if you're not breathing properly is going to be your ability to self-manage. So in other words, your resiliency, like we talked about yesterday. So breathing is super important. And when you, in order to fully breathe, and yes, I'm about to give a lesson on breathing. I never thought I would. But for anybody who's known me for a long time, I mean, one of my nicknames is Hurricane. Barb, if you're still on here, you are one of the ones who know this because you were one of the ones who originally called me Hurricane. I never stopped, and I never stop to breathe. So if I can do it, you can do it. And maybe some of you are great at it. But anyway, it's to take a deep breath. And what you want to do is you want to imagine your stomach filling with air. So if you want to be really cool with me right now, you'll take a deep breath with me. If not, I'll be really cool on my own. And so deep breath in through your nose and have your belly expand and then let it out slowly. Another great way to calm to get into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the nervous system that is calm and collected, it's to do those breaths over and over and even to take a pause in between. So you breathe in, pause, let it out. And that's a really great way to stabilize your emotions, get oxygen to the brain, because we know when there is we always say when emotions are high, intelligence is low. If you've ever heard that, give me a thumbs up that you've heard that in the comments below. So emotions are high, intelligence is low. And that really means that what's happening in your brain is that there's not as much oxygen and you've gone into your fight, flight, or freeze, into the base of your brain, into that old primitive brain that we talked about yesterday. And you can't get into your thinking brain or your rational brain when you are in that part of your brain. So when you are emotional, if you are very emotional, you cannot be rational. So you can't be emotional and rational at the same time. So a breath is a really, really great way to get into emotions. And you get really, really good at it. Like and we'll talk about this on Thursday, but if I get triggered by somebody, like a client, when we're having a conversation, I'll take a breath. And I had to learn how to take a breath really quietly so that, they're not thinking, what's wrong? So I've become pretty stellar at taking those deep breaths. So that's the first one. And then the second one, I absolutely love this. I love journaling. You will hear it from me many, many times. I love to write down my thoughts. I love to journal. And it has been proven that it is therapy. And it has been proven that it gets a lot of anxious thoughts out of your head. And by putting them on paper, helps your brain to release them. But if you are having an emotional time or an emotional reaction to something, maybe it's over the change that's happening, maybe it's going back to work, you can make a list. And this comes from, I thought I had it here, but it comes from the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0, which is an amazing book. I love it. But it's an emotion versus reason list. So what you'll do is on a piece of paper, you'll make a column with emotion at the top. And then you'll make another column with reason on the top. And then you'll fill in all of the emotions that you're having. And then all of what your reasoning brain, so all of the practical things that are happening. So emotions could be your fears. So for instance, when I was opening up my salon suite, one of the things that I was really scared that I was going to lose my friendship with my coworkers. So that was holding me back because I really loved where I worked. And then rationally, I knew that I'm getting my nails done there anyway, so I'm going to see them. And the connection that I can keep with them, I can do, I have all their phone numbers, I have them on social media, and I could call them up and we could always go for coffee. So, I mean, emotionally, I thought I'm definitely going to lose them. Rationally, I knew that that was up to me and I don't have to. So emotion and reason list is a great thing to do. It's almost like your pro and con list, but a little bit more psychological. And then what you can do at the end of that is what you want to look at is how have your emotions held you back, or how are they getting in the way? And also, how is your reasoning, how is your reasoning maybe not listening to your gut feeling? So is it too rational? Are you avoiding something that you should be listening to that your gut's trying to tell you? So I love that list. The next one is, the next strategy is self-compassion. I absolutely love this too. I'm going to get real corny with you guys. It doesn't matter though, because as corny as it is, it's so true. I talked about yesterday all the thoughts that we have, you know, and if you remember how many negative thoughts we have in a day, or if you remember the percentage of our thoughts that are negative, please comment below. But we have 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them are negative. So those negative thoughts a lot of times are self-defeating thoughts. I'm doing a course right now and it's all about self-doubt, and thank you, Paul, you are on it. Most of us have the feeling of I'm not good enough. Like that's an ingrained feeling. Part of it is, hey Nadine, part of it is when it comes to being human and our social programming that happens, we oftentimes have thoughts that, hey, I'm not good enough. So that's an unhelpful thought. And, you know, there are other thoughts that go on in our brain, lies that we tell ourselves. We are not our own best friend. There are so many of us, and if it's you, let me know with a heart below. So many of us are actually our worst enemies, or we are our frenemy in our heads. You would never talk to your friend the way you talk to yourself, or at least I know that for me, I would never talk to a friend like I talk to myself. I would be so demotivating. If I talked to my friends like that, I wouldn't have any. Thank you for the hearts. So we want to have self-compassion. If you want to know more about self-compassion, Kristin Neff, N-E-F-F, she is a psychologist who she deals in completely, she does all the topic of self-love, self-compassion. But what you want to do is talk to yourself like you are your best friend. So when you have one of those thoughts, or when you're having a moment where you're feeling down, you know, it's being your own cheerleader. Like, hey girl, I know, or hey boy, I know that you're not feeling good right now. And it's okay. It's okay. You'll get through this. You're a beautiful person. You have many friends who love you. Just talk to yourself. Things will get better like you would to your best friend. But it takes a little bit more than that. So if you want to be really corny with me, placing your hand over your heart and focusing on love, like sending love back. Also, like if you are one, for me, for instance, a lot of my anxiety, you can feel anxiety. If you've ever had anxiety, or if you've ever had moments of depression, you know that you can feel this in your body. So some people I know feel it in their throat. So gently holding your throat, holding where you're feeling that anxiety, gently holding your chest where you're feeling maybe tightness, and just taking a moment to breathe and to send love in. I know it sounds woo-woo. I know it sounds corny. It may not be something you want to do in front of people. I do it in front of people, but people already know I'm freaking weird, and I have embraced the weird. However, I will say that it does feel good. And if you're doing it right now, I bet you that you do feel better. And if you've tried it right at this moment and you do feel better, then give me a thumbs up in the comments, or maybe even a little winky face emoji. It feels good. But again, for more of that, Kristen Neff is a really good one to follow. I do believe she has a TED Talk that's really, really good. And then the next one, and this is something that has changed my life, and that is mindfulness. So mindfulness, a lot of people believe that it's meditation. And if you know what mindfulness actually means, type it in the comments there, let me know, or even just give me a big M. Barb, yeah, you did it. So the big M for mindfulness. And what it is it's not necessarily meditation, although meditation is part of mindfulness. Mindfulness just means being in this moment right now and being aware of what's going on in your surroundings. And what mindfulness is not is thinking about your past. So ruminating, thinking about your past, or thinking about your future, or thinking about tasks that you need to do. So your past or your future, that is not being mindful. Being mindful is being in the moment right now. Now, our primitive brain doesn't like to be in the present tense because it's not in our primitive brain. It's not in that little voice that being mindful happens. It's deeper than that. It's, we talk about, somebody help me here because I'm losing my words, but we talk about two different parts of our brain, there's the thinking and then there's the being. So that being part of us, it's the part that can observe the thoughts. It's the part that can actually notice that we are having a thought. That's the core of us. That's who we really are. And being mindful is just being in the moment, being aware of the thoughts that are going on in our heads and not getting hooked in them. It's okay to have those thoughts going, but it's the trying to focus or bringing your awareness to what's going on around you. Really, if you're parents, it's those moments where you're just there with your child. You're so present. You're feeling so much love for them in that moment. You're creating that memory right now. You're really taking a videotape of this moment in time and savoring it. For me, it's, those times when I'm with my dog and he's being super loving, and I'm nowhere else but there with him, and in such a beautiful moment. But it could also just be sitting here and taking it all in right now. The one thing that mindfulness is amazing for, and I will touch on this again when we talk about emotional triggering, mindfulness is so good for if your emotions are high or if you're in a triggering moment. One way that you can avoid having additional pain or having higher emotions, or your emotions building and plateauing, is to actually get into this moment in time right now. Easy way to do it is to take a moment and get into your senses. Have a look around the room and maybe look at 5 things that you can see right now. Have a listen for 3 things that you can hear. What are 2 things that you can touch? Is there anything that you can taste right now? Is there anything that you can smell right now? So it's really getting into your senses, and that's one easy way to have a mindfulness moment. Another easy way to have a mindfulness moment is taking a deep breath, like we talked about before, which is, that's the first strategy, is taking a deep breath, but really taking the time to feel how that air feels going into your nose. Can you feel like kind of that coldness that happens on your upper lip as you're taking a deep breath in? Can you feel how the air feels cool going down your throat and how does it feel going into your lungs? Really feel your lungs filling up. And this is something that you can do, and you don't have to look corny. You don't have to worry about how you're appearing to others, because you can practice mindfulness and nobody has to know. You can practice deep breaths and nobody has to know. You can be a little stealth about it. And nobody has to know that you're feeling emotional or you're feeling triggered. And that is a way that you can care for yourself and really build resiliency. And believe me, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And finally, the last strategy, and this is one that I know you've all heard of, and it's really trendy right now, which makes it sometimes hard to get people on board when it's super trendy, is practicing gratitude. But there is a reason for it. And you cannot feel fear and love at the same time. Try it, I dare you. Just like you can't be angry and happy at the same time. And innately, I know that you know this to be true. And if you know it to be true, give me a thumbs up. Like if you know it deep down. You cannot feel fear and you cannot feel love and joy all at the same time. You feel one or you feel the other. But how you get out of feeling fear is to get into feeling love. I will say gratitude is a practice. When you hear it being said, like the practice gratitude, you have to practice gratitude. Because if you don't, if it's not something that's in your daily routine, you will not have it there in the moments that you truly, truly need it. So what I mean by that is we talked yesterday, and yesterday was such a good conversation to set this one up, but we talked about yesterday practicing our mindset and how our mindset, our thoughts, 95% of the negative thoughts that we think every single day are the same as they were the day before. So you may be having the same negative thoughts every single day. So those thoughts basically in your brain, they're wired in that way. They are wired in to take that same path. So your brain, if your thought is, I'm not good enough, then that thought that you keep having, or I can't do it, that thought, that's just a neural pathway that your brain's so used to taking, it keeps reminding you of it. It keeps going down that path. And so in order to change that, we have to practice a new pathway. And a new pathway, and the best pathway to create, is through gratitude. So how you can do this is in the mornings, the simplest way is before you get out of bed, you can either write it down or in your mind, you can just state it. But the key thing is that whatever you do, you need to feel it. You want to think about moments in your life that have caused you to feel joy, true, pure joy. Whether it be moments or whether it be, your children, your spouse, your pets, your parents. Just think about anything that's really had you feeling pure joy. And don't leave that gratitude practice until you felt joy. Then you're done. I do it twice a day. You can do it once a day to start, and just even to think of, even if you can only think of one joyful moment and feel the joy, the key is to feel the joy. And then the more you think about it, the more you'll be able to have moments to recall, to feel gratitude in times when you are feeling stuck or when you're feeling emotional. I know I have to practice gratitude when I'm on landing on airplanes because I travel a lot, yes, but I still haven't gotten over the anxiety that I feel when landing. So gratitude practice comes real handy. Brene Brown, if you are all familiar with Brene Brown, she has one of the #1 watched TED Talks of all time. She's a podcast right now. She has 5 or 6 best-selling books. She is killing it. She's a social worker who studies shame and resiliency, and she's the one that really drove home to me about gratitude practice. But one thing she really said that I loved, when she hit it big, she was getting interviewed on Oprah's show, and she was on the plane ride there, and she was about to go meet Oprah, and she said, of course, you know what, this will be the time that this plane crashes, because she thought of all the times that this is this huge thing that's about to happen to her, and she couldn't get over the fact that it was going to be ruined by something. And she said the only way for her to really get through that was to practice gratitude, because she was forecasting doom. So fear, again, you can't feel fear and you can't feel love at the same time. So for her, gratitude practice really brought her back to feeling love and joy and calm and contentment in that moment. So I hope that you do try that one, and I hope that it works for you. Tony Robbins says, if you change your expectations, so again, this whole talk is about expectations. If you change your expectations for appreciation, and that's when your life becomes a miracle. So if you change your expectations for appreciation or gratitude, that's when your life becomes a miracle. So, and I truly, truly, truly believe that. So the strategies that we have are to breathe, to have an emotion and reason list, to have self-compassion, start practicing self-compassion, start practicing mindfulness, and start practicing gratitude. Even if you pick just one of these as your homework for the next 24 hours to try out and try on to see if it fits, I promise you that with continual practice, it will change your life. It's definitely, they have changed my life for sure. And one last thing to think about. I've never been on a roller coaster, but I've seen a lot of roller coaster journeys, and I can't wait until I get the opportunity to actually try one. But when you're on a roller coaster, and you know how we always see those snap pictures, and in the snap picture, you have two types of people usually. You have the type of person who's like this, and they're loving every moment, and they have that crazy spot. By the way, if you just took a screenshot when I did that, you're gonna get a really good picture. So then the other person, I bet you can guess it, but if you can guess it, put it in the comments below, give me a thumbs up. But the other person is there like this, and they're just wishing it'd be over, and they're so stiff, and they're holding onto the bars so hard. You know, we can get through life like that. So typically that's, I know it's an extreme version, but that's the two people in life. Like, which one do you want to be? Life is definitely a roller coaster ride. It has its ups, it has its downs. Do you want to be the one that's riding it like this? Or do you want to be the one that is eyes closed, missing the journey, holding on tight? It's the same analogy, kid one, kid two from before. I just want to say thank you so much for joining in. That this is the message I wanted to get across today. So I hope that all of these strategies to help manage expectations and manage emotions, I hope that they work for you. Feel free to share this with anybody you think would like this message. Remember, I'll be back again, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So Wednesday, tomorrow, is going to be all about our energy, our responsibility. That is definitely a subject that I love to speak on. No, a Thursday is all about emotional triggering. So if you've ever worked with somebody who gets like on your nerves, if you've ever had that feeling of somebody getting on your nerves, that would be, if I could boil it down to one thing, it's that something or someone getting on your nerves constantly, or you don't know how to deal with it, or maybe they make your emotions really high. That's what we're going to talk about on Thursday. How do you deal with that? Especially going back into the workforce if you're working with others, because we know COVID-19 is going to be a huge conversation. People's emotions are going to be high. So tomorrow we're going to talk about how do you protect your energy when somebody else's energy is draining. And Thursday, we're going to talk about how do you not get triggered by somebody else. And Friday, we're going to talk about how to put a plan of action in place to bring all of this together so that your life can look completely different moving forward in your trajectory. Big word for today. So thank you for being on here with me. Thank you for tuning in. Some of you came back in from yesterday, which is so cool to have repeat offenders here with me. And I want to leave you with two thoughts today. And that is, things work out the best for those who make the best of how things worked out. And then the other one is, the stiffest tree is easily cracked, while the bamboo and the willow survive by blowing with the wind. So if that at all relates to you, I just love those quotes. If that at all relates to you, I'm glad. Again, if you want to share this with anybody, I'd be super, super grateful. Thank you for all the playing. Thank you for being involved here. If you tuned in halfway through, sure, go back and rewatch it. Why not? And I would love to see it, and I would love to see it shared. So thank you so much all for being here, and I hope I see you tomorrow, and I hope I see you Thursday, and I hope I see you Friday. Same time, same place. Have a good evening, everyone.